It's estimated that in 1999, about 850,000 students, kindergarten through 12th grade, were homeschooled. But by 2016, that number had jumped to over 1.6 million and then dramatically increased for the 2020-2021 school year, when the estimates say it was around 3.7 million students in the United States. But it's very difficult to get an accurate number of how many kids are actually homeschooled because the homeschool requirements vary from state to state. In fact, the research that I did showed that the numbers of homeschooled children could be as high as 5 million students in the United States, because in certain states like Illinois, where I live, when we withdrew our children from public school, we only were required to tell them that we were withdrawing them from the school. We didn't need to inform them of whether or not that would be a private school, a homeschool, or any other type of institution. So I'm not surprised that those numbers dramatically increased during the pandemic. That's when we started considering homeschooling for our family. Prior to that, both my husband and I had been raised as public school students, and we had never even considered that there were other alternatives for our family. And when my oldest daughter first started kindergarten at our local public school, if you would have told me that in 2022 I would start homeschooling my children, I would never have believed you. So even in the early days of the pandemic, I never considered homeschooling because Zoom school, or the school at home that we were doing, seemed like my children were just having too much time in front of their iPads and not enough experience with other children. So it really took quite a change in my mindset before I decided homeschooling. So today I decided, after we've been 6 months into this experience, and we started in the fall of 2022, we're here in January of 2023, I wanted to record this video of what we have learned, the things that we love, the surprises that we've had, and the hard lessons that we've learned over the last 6 months. So if you're considering homeschooling, maybe this will help you to make a really educated decision. Or if you're in the thick of it and you're wondering if anybody else is having your experience, spoiler alert, yes, we get ya. So stay tuned and let me share with you our lessons learned, the things we love, and the surprises that we've had in the last 6 months. Okay, let's start off with what really surprised me. Every time I would tell somebody that we were considering homeschool, the reaction that I would get was, "Oh my goodness, Lindsay, that is going to be a ton of work for you." So I had it in my mind that this was just going to be a ton of work for me. And in the beginning, I did put quite a lot of work on myself on pre-planning lessons and really trying to create that structure of school at home. And one of the surprises I had is, in some ways, it's a lot harder than I thought. There are days when I just can't force it for my kids. And there are days when it's just not going your way and your kids are back and forth with you. And then there are days where I find that it's way easier than I thought. My children actually get through their work much faster than I ever anticipated. In fact, in the last few weeks, since we've gotten into a rhythm and a routine, we find that we're finishing our schoolwork within a couple hours in the morning.
So it's 10 o'clock. What are we supposed to do now?
And I was surprised to find that I really didn't have to do a lot of prep work, because the curriculum that we've chosen, and I'll go ahead and put links below to some of our favorite curriculums if you want to check them out, most of them are really open and go. And children are such natural learners that they really absorb and they love to learn the new information, as long as it's presented to them in unique and interesting ways, and it's things that they are really excited about learning. So while I expected that it was going to take us 5 or 6 hours a day to get through all the information, we are getting through it a lot faster, and I don't have to do as much teaching as I thought I was really going to have to do. The other thing is that I learned that my kids need a lot of exercise, like a lot. So I've had to incorporate other things into our routine. We found a really amazing program through our co-school where the girls go to a forest school every single week for 3 hours, and they're outside hiking and running and playing in nature, and that gives them a ton of opportunities for exercise. We also incorporate field trip Fridays every Friday, so they're getting a lot of exercise and time with their friends at those occasions as well. But sometimes I just gotta send them around the block on their bicycles to get their wiggles out so that we can actually sit down and focus on our work. The other thing that surprised me is just how much lure the electronics in our house would have because the kids are home more than they would be during the public school day. So when we finish our work in 2 hours, they want to play their Roblox, they want to play their Switches, they want to watch TV. And so I've really had to think about lots of different other activities, Legos, art, music, other things that we can have around the house to entertain them if we don't have, play dates and co-ops and forest school and other activities that we're planning on doing outside of the home on those days. Now, here are the things that I absolutely love. I love that I can control the pace of how my children are learning. So for instance, my older daughter is learning multiplication and fractions and division this year. And these are things that she was finding more challenging than math that she had done in the past. And we were able to slow down and stretch the lessons out when the work was challenging for her. And then when we got to places where things came very quick and naturally to her, we could speed up and go through those lessons more quickly. So it's been wonderful that I've been able to adjust that pace for each of my children to allow them to not be rushed through the things that they need more time with and to not make them bored with the stuff that they can get through very, very quickly. I also love that we have the freedom to dive into things more deeply that they're really excited about. So if they're really interested in marine biology, we can do a whole unit study on that. They're really interested in volcanoes, we can do a whole study on what is going on with volcanoes, create our own volcano, learn about places that have volcanoes. And that's really been amazing that I can kind of let them guide us into deeper areas of the topics that they're really interested in, where in a room full of 20 or 30 other kids, I think we wouldn't be able to get that opportunity so tailored as we can do in our own small little homeschool. I also love that we can choose the appropriate curriculum. So if our children are more advanced in one area, we can choose more robust and challenging curriculum for them. We can choose the appropriate curriculum based on each child's needs, and we can choose the types of content that we want them to learn that maybe they wouldn't get exposed to in the public schools. And we can also avoid things that we maybe don't like are being taught in other places. So it's really nice that we can bring a well-balanced curriculum into our home, and I absolutely love that. I also love that we can do more experiential learning. We can do more hands-on experiments. We can spend more time in nature. We can slow down and really make their education very experiential, including the fact that we take Field Trip Friday every single Friday. I think this is probably the number one thing my kids love more than anything else about homeschool, because I still remember Lucy saying, "Mom, I only got like 2 field trips entire year that I was in first grade. And we're doing a field trip every single week." And I say to her, "Yeah, isn't it awesome?" So I absolutely love that we get to experience this together. There's so many opportunities for us to bond as a family. And yes, it's a normal family. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. So there are days that I'm literally pulling my hair out, wondering if I've made the right decision. How am I going to keep doing this? But there are so many more wonderful moments where we are creating something incredible in our little home. Now, what about the big lessons and sometimes the hard lessons that we learn? Well, I would say the biggest lesson that I learned, and what I wish I had known before we had gone into this, that would have relieved a lot of my anxiety and fear about homeschooling, is that homeschooling and doing school at home are not the same thing at all. I absolutely hated when we were doing school at home during the pandemic. My daughter was stuck on her tablet for a couple hours a day, alone, learning by herself, because I was up here working in my office. I wasn't with her. We weren't doing the education together. And in my mind, I was worried that it was going to be two kids sitting at the table, independently on their tablets all day long doing school at home. I also thought that I was going to have all these poster boards in my house and all these pictures and letters and everything all over the walls like you see in a classroom. And that just wasn't me. That's not how I envisioned running my homeschool, but I thought I was going to have to do all those things. And so I wish I would have known that you really get to create your homeschool the way that you want, and that you don't have to compare yourself to other people. In fact, in our house, I never could get into the morning basket. I watched all these videos of you YouTubers that are out there that have these beautiful morning routines. And for us, it just felt like another thing we had to get through before we could actually do our schoolwork. And my kids are kind of type A like me. They just want to get to it, get it done, and then get outside and do other amazing activities and play with friends and see the world and be in nature. And so we just didn't get into it. And I wish I would have known in the beginning that I didn't have to compare myself to the other parents, and I didn't have to compare myself to the other homeschools. And we got to craft our homeschool in the way that we wanted, because there were mornings where we were definitely bickering back and forth about the stuff I thought we had to check off our list. The other lesson I learned is that 10 to 15 minutes of really focused and engaged activity on a subject is more valuable, especially for my younger one who's 6 years old, than trying to get through the whole lesson. So in the beginning, I really wanted us to stick to our checklist, and I really wanted us to stick to our schedule. And I would try to get through each and every single lesson that I wanted us to accomplish each and every single day. And some days there would be tears, and most of the time they were mine. And I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. And what I came to find, especially from the other homeschool parents and the directors of the co-schools that we work with, is that 10 minutes of really focused activity, math, reading, copy work, writing, was more important than me trying to get through an entire lesson and having the kids struggle and become disinterested at the end. So I really let go of that, had to learn that lesson the hard way. And now I notice that both of the girls are really flourishing, and they get through their work and they're happy and they're excited and they're doing their best work each and every single day. I also learned that some days you just can't force it. And those are the days that you just say, oh, well, we're going outside to play and maybe even get some ice cream. And you know what? That's okay too. And the last lesson that I learned is that we desperately need the co-schools and the co-ops that we partner with. While I absolutely adore homeschooling my children, and I really don't see us quitting at any time in the near future, I also really need my own time to do my work and just have time for myself, because like I've said in some of my other videos, the kids are always around. They're always here. And so now I realize how vital these co-schools and co-ops and forest schools and all these other activities that their kids are in, where sometimes I'm involved and sometimes I get to drop them off and have time to myself. I've realized how important those are, not only because of the time for me, but because it gives them an environment where they are interacting with other kids, not just in a socializing environment, but actually in an academic environment as well. And I find that that is so valuable, to have that balance between some time in what is more like a traditional classroom and also some of the time to work independently with me at home. It's been so valuable. But I think the most important thing is that overall, this has been the best decision our family could make. I remember so many tears at night at the kitchen table after dinner doing homework, and that was for my daughter who was only in 3rd grade. And as they got older, it was only going to get more and more intense with the amount of work that they were going to be coming home with after sitting in school for 8 hours a day. And so I love that this has given us the opportunity to go through the work, digest it at our own pace, move more quickly when things come easy to them, take our time when they don't, and then also have more family time in the evenings to really sit down and enjoy dinner together and to relax afterward as a family and not be focusing on that homework, because we got it all done during the day. So if you're considering homeschooling, just know that you will never feel 100% prepared and ready for it, but it is an incredible adventure that you can have with your family. And I highly recommend that you at least give it a try if it's on your heart and it's something that you're thinking about. And as I said before, I'll go ahead and I will put down my favorite resources below that helped us to feel really comfortable, confident in this decision, and that support us in all of our curriculum choices and moving forward with homeschooling for our family. I'll see you in the next video.